Alright, today we got something a little different. We've got this Sea King over here. I don't know if you guys can see that, I hope so. Yeah. There we go. We got rewards Sea King 6. Get you a look at this. It's got reverse shifter and forward shifter. Get this thing spinning around for you. We got our rich and lean idle mixture screw here, or a little full thing, or choke. It's got a tilt release down here somewhere. There. So it will tilt and try to murder you occasionally. And you got your hook up there, and you got, of course, these guys, and it goes back and forth, which is nice. And here you got the hood release, which then allows you to take this off like that. Make sure you guys still gotta get the view. Yeah. I'll tilt you over a little. Got our Tilson carburetor right here, which you can see works pretty good. Pull that into here, that thing. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a 2-cylinder, water-cooled, 2-cycle engine. What took me a while is identifying this thing. And apparently it's made by Chrysler Marine. Its model number, which is, get you guys in here for a second. Sorry for bobbling you around, but get your peepers. Look right here. It's a VWB19074A, serial number 66X12423. Parts Montgomery Ward. Through some research, I found out that this thing is actually made by Chrysler Marine. And that research took me a long time scouring the internet and old forums and just to see what's out there on the information on it. And get a good idea of what I'm getting into when I first started it. This is where you go for stop, shift, start, running fast. That's interesting. This would be the second motor I worked on. The first one was a real pretty one. Tiny, but it wasn't very eventful. It just started up and ran. And this one took a little bit more work. Let me see if I can get this thing turned around again. Yeah. This is a beast. Anyways, I'll do the YouTube thing, and this is what the old one looked like, the picture. Spin around a little bit. Anyway, after going through a bit to find things about it, I managed to find several manuals for several similar models. And after a bit, I managed to find the actual manual for it, and then, you know, some schematics. Which helped a lot. I mean, I had to find some that was similar, because this particular model, I don't know why, but it seemed to land between a few models that were similar but not quite the same, and finding information on it was kind of hard, and parts were even harder to find, as it's from 1966, which comes with the territory, I guess. And probably the hardest thing when I started working on this thing is the fact that the majority of the screws on this thing, besides using 1/2 for most of the bolts, I'll get you in close so you can see the interesting conundrum I ran into. Right up in here. There's 4 on each side, plus 3 on top. Even the manifold uses those things. And every screwdriver I had, most of these universal things, did not have a size that would work with it. Kept trying to strip it or whatever. So I managed to find this guy. A chunky thing. At an estate sale, and it worked wonders. Like, it just went. And it very carefully removed every bolt I wanted it to remove without too much trouble. So honestly, I would say if you were ever in the position to have to work on one of these, or this one even, if you manage to run into it in the future, I would say that you need to get yourself one of the biggest screwdrivers you've ever seen in a flathead, and that pretty well takes care of it. Yeah, I mentioned this thing weighs 70 freaking pounds. It's crazy. It's very, very, very top heavy. And the reason why I'm not just doing let's work on it immediately type thing is because when I first started on this one, and the other one too, well, I was just taking pictures, because when you take something apart, you'd like to know where it goes back. And so I just took lots and lots of pictures. Some of it, like when I tried to start it and such, I took video. And I started taking video because it's a lot more convenient to figure out where things come from than piecing together on photo. But then I thought, why not share it with everybody else? So here we are. I am trying to make this the least boring as absolutely possible. For the top end of this thing, I decided to, well, first of all, I just decided to split this up in sections, because it's got the lower unit with all the seals and the propeller and the impeller and all that stuff, but it's also got the top end, so I just split them. And I decided, let's get this thing running, and then we can worry about the lower end on it. And first thing I did was take compression tests on this one and another one. And I nicknamed this thing Beefy. The other one's named Pretty. It spun over, but a little bit hard. And it had spark. Compression dry was 48 and 53. That's pretty bad. But I thought, well, it's been sitting a while. Maybe the rings just kind of got stuck or whatever. So I added some lubrication to them. A little bit of oil, a little bit of WD-40, and cycled them a few times. And then I went and took it outside to test it out. And, you know, I loosened up all the recoil to make it spin a little bit better with some WD-40. And it seemed to come around. It just started up. It was like crazy. I mean, I had to fiddle with the carburetor and the mixture screws a little bit and try to figure out where it liked to be happy. But I got that done, and it smoked, as engines do when you have a lot of oil or whatever in the cylinder. But it started, and it ran. It seemed to run pretty good. But wifey was complaining because the smoke was drifting, and managed to come inside, and it was everywhere. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we got to do something different. So yeah, I took it over to my friend's house in their backyard and started it up. Well, I'll let you look at that video real quick. But what concerned me more, I'll try to bring this video picture up, or portion of the video, right about now. Okay. Anyway, what concerned me was the oil that was going up and on all of the top of the water and in the water, and I'm like, it's probably leaking oil. I should check that out. And I decided to move on to the lower end on that side. But before I got that far, I noticed I was having some trouble with, let me get you guys adjusted well. Oh, you guys are pretty good. This thing was unyieldy, like you saw it tip just a minute ago. I tried to show you how you can adjust the things, and it has little spots for adjustment. It's very, very top heavy, like incredibly top heavy. It's fell on me several times. I only got a picture of one of them, but that was after I actually got the newer stand here. So even with a nice stand, it it's still very top heavy, not very friendly towards tilting it or moving around too much. You have to be really careful about it. So I decided, at the time I was using a step stool, because the old motor worked on the step stool. It wasn't a water-cooled motor, but it worked well. But it wasn't working with this one. It was very topsy-turvy. And I'm like, okay, so we need to upgrade this a little bit. And researching the price of these stands, I was like, damn. For a single, fixing a single little outboard motor, I don't know if I'm going to continue doing it or not. I might. It was a pretty expensive little investment. And I was like, all right, let's try to make our own little sawhorse or whatever. And, I have no idea about wood. That's Wifey's department. But I went ahead and drew out a schematic for that. I'll put it up on the screen or whatever. And then I tried making it. But it kind of didn't go anywhere. I'll show you how far I got on that. But yeah, apparently Douglas fir is a softwood, and you want a hardwood if you're going to be doing some kind of chiseling and stuff to it. But I got fed up, and finally I went and forked out the money for this. Before I ended up getting this, though, I used the back of a steel folding chair. But it was one of the really old ones. This thing bent that chair, at least from the back of it. Also tried to murder me again. So yeah, it was plain and clear I have to do something, so I got this one. And while making that video that I just showed you, it did this. And that was just from the rubber handles on this thing coming down. Yeah, 70 pounds just going down like that top heavy is crazy. So you gotta be really careful. Anyway, let's get on into it. Went over to the lower end. And the first thing I looked at was the impeller housing. Got it apart, and I'm like, this thing has cracks in it. I don't know if I got a good picture of that, but I'll show it here if I do. Anyway, it looks cracked. I went online looking for old stock or old new stock, and every other one that I found also had cracks. And I'm like, not good. Really not good. I don't want to fork out money and end up in the same boat. So I went through and decided that, well, maybe I can make my own. So I looked up different ways to make models, and I figured if I could make a model of it, then I could, correct the dimensions and add things to it. So first thing I did is I looked up one of those 3D modeling doomajiggers, and I tried spinning around it. That didn't work very well. I didn't have much space for that. Then I tried spinning it around in my hand. Here's the wonderful little gif of it going around. Assuming I can actually edit this. If not, I just look really silly, but that's okay too. That didn't work out. So then I went through and did a whole lot more pictures over here, going around in every possible dimension. Then I measured every little dimension I could find on this thing with my calipers, recording them all, and going through several different 3D applications, like, not sponsored by anybody, but Blender and FreeCAD and things like that. And I ended up with this, It was pretty good. But then I decided to look into the next step. How am I going to get this made? Am I going to get 3D printed? Well, the problem with 3D printing is I'd have to have something that could both take, it have to be sturdy, it have to have a temperature resistant, it has to be water to hold the water in there so it wouldn't leak, and abrasion from it just moving the impeller around inside of it. And I'm like, okay, that might be possible, but it looks like it's going to be pretty expensive. But more realistic would be going and getting it molded and report or whatever, looking through that, and that's still very expensive. I'm like, oh, well, let's move on. And I moved on to the impeller. And the impeller itself, I'm going to get a picture of that. And actually, I got it right here. And it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blades. And it's keyed. I think it was 9/16 shaft. And for this dimension, it was unobtainium. Like, I found one possible website to make it, and it was very expensive. And for the impellers that showed on there, I would be playing guessing games, and most of them had a different size shaft. So I was kind of stuck for a long time, for at least a month, just researching different things. And I found that, well, seems like for people doing the repairs on these things, what they do is they repair it using another impeller that has the same shaft size, keyed, but it has 6 blades. First I was suspicious of that. I'm like, I don't know, but it seemed to be pretty common across Evinrude, Johnson, Sea Kings of all similar years, because it's what they do. Using AI and stuff, I researched that apparently Chrysler Marine only did this type of impeller for the early years, because after that they decided that these things weren't reliable, that there's better designs, and that 6 blade is the newer design, and they didn't put out any more of these guys. And this one still is pliable, I can go without any trouble, but it has the shape of the impeller housing. You can see the curve of these blades right here. Like, it's got a memory of them. It no longer straightens back out. And it's showing wear and tear that way. And yeah, it'll probably work, and it does work. When I put it in the other impeller housing, I was surprised it didn't have any leaks, which was like, woohoo! However, after I got it all back together, I decided that, this might work. It might work for another 60 years, or it might not. It might just run until they get to the middle of a lake and then stop. So I don't really want to put somebody in that situation, and I really don't want people looking down on the motor just because it crapped out on them that quick. So I just replaced it. I might give this one and the old propeller to the person that inherits it next, because I'm supposed to find it to get home. That's my goal. And that was where I went with it. I also noticed, well, I'll go ahead and show you that since I'm not there yet, but the propeller had a big old notch on it. You can see it right there. And I remember the story about it, that their son was out with it and came back and got this in it, and they just didn't use it no more, supposedly. But also, if you look here, I don't know if that was because of what happened or because it was just manufactured that way. It's definitely not true if you look at where that centerpiece is right there. Here tells some people can repair these things. I don't know how, but sure. I can't tell from the inside how or where or what or why it's like that. Just the outside. So that left me in a predicament all by itself, but I knew I had to address it. And I also noticed that the lower end had some leaks, like I said before from the video, but I didn't know as I took it apart to try to figure out where the oil is coming from, that if it leaks out, it also leaks in, which means water was getting up in that gear case and it was making its own little milkshake. It was disgusting. And I had to clean all that out. I'll give some pictures of that too. You can see it gathering a little glass thing I had under it as I was changing the oil out. And then I took it apart. And here's all the gears and such. But I got it all cleaned up. I got it all back together. And then I was stuck with, I had to reseal this thing. So I went and looked online. Most of the seals were metric, and I like using metric anyway. So I ordered a whole spew of seals for this thing. And I got them back, and they fit, but not good enough. When I tried to pressurize them, I could see the air coming through it. Squirted water or whatever, it'd still just spill out. I'm like, oh, that's not good. I mean, it was just a hair off. And then I'm sitting here thinking, like, well, the bolts and the year of this thing, maybe it didn't use metric seals. Maybe it had, SAE. So I went and I ordered SAE, and it was just about the same as the other ones, but it actually sealed. That's crazy. So it got sealed up, held 15 psi, and I was like, yeah. Then I had the problem of sourcing the gaskets and such to connect the lower unit to the mid unit there. And I finally found one supposedly new old stock compatible with this, and the gaskets fit just freaking perfectly. I was like, yes. But the seal for the shifter was actually a little bit wider than original. I had to end up going back in there and trimming it out. This is what's left of me trimming it. There's a little bit amount allowed it to leak, and you'll see that in the second video. Or the third, depends on how long it ended up. But it's working now. And I got all that done. I went through a lot figuring that out. The cracks that were in it, though, I noticed that eventually it had this little piece of metal over the top of the crack. And I'm like, what is that? And just going back to the AI, because I didn't have any other reference. And it's like, it might be casting marks. I'm like, huh. I bet it is, because it's not leaking. It's working. I went back and compared to the other ones. They have the identical cracks. So it might be casting marks. It might be actually put in part of the form. I'm not sure. That cast iron housing, it works well. Still works well. It's very unique with the way the water pipe goes up into the motor. There's no like grommet or anything on top of it. There is down on the housing itself, but it's just like a brass pipe. It's really cool. I wasn't expecting that. I got a bunch of papers here to help guide me through my pictures and keep me on track. Let's see here. Yeah, we went through the gearbox and resealing it. Then we moved on to the propeller, which I already told you about for the most part. Thing was, is ordering these things online, it's really difficult because the pictures just show you like way up here. You can't really figure out the dimensions of it. And then trying to message them, the sellers have no idea, for the most part, if it's going to fit something from 1965 or 1966. It's just crazy. So I found some that looked similar, but they wanted like $100 to $200 for the thing, and I'm like, geez, that's a chance. That's a chance because I don't know. Don't know if the shaft's going to work. Don't know if the link's going to work, etc. And they didn't give me much dimensions to work with. And the pictures sure don't do it justice. So I mulled that around for several months actually. And kept searching online till finally I found a website. All the websites I find are forums and stuff from the 90s usually. And I found somebody else with a similar model but a different serial number. And they were asking the forum about what kind of propeller they could use. And of course they didn't answer them. They just casually threw in a link there, and I was like, I wonder. I clicked on the link and it just brought me to this huge text document. But down in that document, it showed for years of seeking that thing right over there, let's see, AMC 320, 8 by 5.5. That thing is supposed to work. It's a 3-blade. And I'm like, I'm gonna take the chance, because like I looked online and it was only like $44 or something from one of the sellers on eBay. And I managed to get it. Not sponsored. And the guy here is so tiny. I got a video of me opening it. Okay, I think this isn't quite right, so I figured I'll record it as I open the thing. That looks tiny as hell, whatever the hell it is. Oh, it is tiny. That was adorable. This is supposed to fit it. Very curious. It is what is on the picture. I guess we'll find out. But yeah, we got that installed and you'll see that in the second video. And that worked out. I was really surprised. Especially finding one that was 1/2-inch drive shaft and pin drive. Just complete randomness. Yeah, let's see what else we got here. Oh, so I went to test it again after I got the bottom redone. And I had to redo it in the second video too because it had that leak and I had to trim the thing, but it's good now. Retested. Went to test it again over at my friend's house after I redid the bottom end of it. It wouldn't start. Like completely lost. Like what the heck? And I'm like, okay, so let's go through the steps. Does it have spark? I'm not sure it has spark. Where did my spark go? And I went through it and ended up taking the I forgot what the name of that flywheel is. Flywheel. And expose the points and the various coils in there, and it's a very unique setup because it's got typical 2-cycle coils on each side of the center lobe that goes round and round and round, and then it has the points on the side of it. The points look freaking spotless golden, you know. The problem I was having was it kept reading as OL, overloaded, on my meter. What the heck? How's it shorted out? What's going on here? And going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, you know, I disconnected different parts and going all the way back to the coil. I'm like, wait, so the coil is shorted. That don't make sense. And the AI was like, well, why don't you just try the spark thing again? So I did. I put my spark tester on it, and I still wasn't getting spark. I was like, what is going on? Finally, I'm like, I wonder if my spark tester is kind of worked. So I just stuck a spark plug in it and tested on the thing, and it sparked. While it's still telling me it has a direct short. I was like, what is going on here? Both of them did it. Apparently, the old coils have such low resistance on it that you just can't read it on a meter. I don't know how or why that makes any sense. You know, normally I would just replace them, but they're riveted in there. You can see that in this picture. So I'm like, okay, it works. If it works, it works. So I put it all back together. You know, it's hard to test the points while, you know, dealing with it, because the flywheel is what turns everything around, and that's where you get your power from. Anyway, got it all back together, and I'm like, okay, so it has spark, and I checked the fuel pump, and carburetor seemed fine, and I didn't figure it out till I got back here. And from what I can tell, because I haven't actually tried to start it yet, I'm just getting everything taken care of. You'll see that in video 3 or 4, wherever it ends up. The screws were not where they needed to be. You know, the idle mixture screw and the high side. Which is, of course, 1 1/4 roughly. Turns out they were way off. I'm like, what in the heck? Apparently, the because they use a really old style, big, freaking needles in that Tilson carburetor. They have adjustable little brass fittings that go on there that hold the needle in there, and I'm guessing that this the car trip, I didn't have it tight enough to keep it from messing up. Either that or the float hung. Either case. But when I took it apart, the float looks fine. It seems fine. All the passages are clean. I'm like, well, okay. It was leaking a little bit from one of the pipes. I just went and got some new pipes. I even went out and bought the R9, which is capable of handling ethanol without deteriorating. The pipes that were in there is just, well, that one's, yeah, there you go. Pretty old and brittle. I got them all replaced. I even got some stuff for that. And that's about where I'm at right now. After we do that, I might, you know, look at the fuel and see if we need to replace the fuel, because 2 cycles are kind of touchy about their fuel. Test it out, and that's pretty much where we are right now. I'm going back and forth because I personally, I'm not good at painting things at all, even though I have a close attention to detail on things. But you can see some of the little chips under here. A little bit of wear and tear. Most of them are just over time. You know, it just shows this thing's been through a lot. Under here is a weird one. And the new propeller could use a touch-up too, honestly. Yeah. But one, I don't know where I would get this particular color. I'd probably go to some paint shop and try to figure out what color this is, and then get a spray in it and just quickly spray all the spots or touch them up. But I doubt I'm gonna do that, just because I'm really, really bad at painting things. I might leave that to whoever gets it next. If they really want to touch it up, they can. My focus is just getting it running, getting it sealed, and a new quality home. But with that, now we should be caught up and I'm ready to move on to part 2, which I'll have you guys going on. Thanks for watching. This is Sea King 6, whatever we're going to be working on outboard. Bye.